Phone is Josh Franzen, the Senior Community and Business Development Representative with In Touch Credit Union. He's here to offer up tips on building up an emergency savings plan. Josh, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Josh, obviously, there are a lot of people right now who are living paycheck to paycheck, especially with inflation wreaking havoc on so many people's pocketbooks. What advice do you have for people on best practices for building up an emergency savings?
So building up an emergency savings is very important, and there are some simple tricks that can help get people started. The best trick I can offer to everyone is to make it an automatic habit, whether that's putting some of your direct deposit automatically into a savings account, setting up automated transfers, or even speaking to your financial institution about ways to move money automatically from one fund to another.
For someone who's struggling right now, though, what tips do you have for them on how to make sure that they're setting a little bit aside without struggling to pay for groceries and rent and car insurance?
Great question. So when I work with individuals in counseling sessions, I usually tell them, let's start small because small things add up quickly, right? So maybe start with just putting $5 away into a savings account. If you are going to start saving after all your bills are paid, we see that typically doesn't happen. So treat savings as a bill to yourself. You are paying yourself. So pay yourself first, put a little bit aside, and if you need to adjust that later on down the road, you can. My advice is to always take time to sit with a financial professional at your local financial institution and have them do a budget review with you to see what extra money we can find to put away and which savings vehicle will help you accelerate your savings the fastest.
And what do you tell people about the importance of having that savings?
Oh, I preach it all the time because we never know what's going to happen, right? We may seem fine and dandy 1 minute and then something happens, whether it's job loss, illness, accident. So you just never know. And we see people who want to hit this big number real quick, and I appreciate and understand that. But again, small things add up quickly. So reward yourself by doing small things and hit milestones. Maybe set a goal of $100 at first, then go to $250. We see when people do that, their success rate grows exponentially.
And how much do you think people should have in their emergency savings?
Most financial professionals tend to go for the $400 amount. Most Americans struggle to get to that one. So if we can help everybody get to that one first, that'd be great. But again, let's reward ourselves for anything we put away and congratulate ourselves because that's the hardest part is just getting started and then keeping to the rhythm.
And, you know, even just having $400 and then emergency savings, that can be wiped out with one car issue. I mean, if your car breaks down or you get a flat tire, the $400 is gone.
Right, and that's why when you mentioned inflation earlier, you know, we do see rates going up, right? But what people also should know is while lending rates are going up, so are savings rates. So basic savings accounts are up, CDs and certificates are up. There are specialized savings accounts now being developed to help people accelerate their savings to be paid more in dividends faster than before. So while stuff is going up, we should also look at how that could benefit us versus only focusing on the negative. And when we talk to our account holders and we talk to members of the community about that, it's kind of like a light bulb goes off and, I should take advantage of this situation now to benefit me, right? We're always looking for the Whiffam factor, the what's in it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you mentioned was paying yourself first. And a lot of times if you have it taken out from your paycheck automatically every month, you don't even realize that they're taking it out. And then before you know it, you have $400, $500 and an emergency savings.
Exactly. I mean, that's the easiest and quickest way to really set up a savings plan is just to do it that way. And most individuals can do that themselves through their payroll functions, whether it's online or if they need some help, they can always go to their HR department and they can work with them to set up the direct deposits in a way that makes sense for them because it's their money, right? You're just telling your paycheck where it's going to go.
You know, one of the best things that my mom advised me to do, Josh, when I first bought my house was set aside $50 every month, if possible, automatically withdrawn by the bank into that emergency savings. And then if something goes wrong with the house, that's your emergency plan for fixing anything that goes wrong. Best advice ever.
Oh, absolutely agree. My grandparents and my parents told me the same thing. Not necessarily for a house. I'm not a homeowner yet, but I have had situations where, had to end up in the hospital, and luckily I had a nice cash fund available for me, so I didn't have to depend on putting these things on high-interest credit cards. And then you get the bill, and suddenly your heart rate goes up because now you see this giant bill on credit that you've got to pay back with interest, right? So having that emergency fund can help decrease the need to depend on credit cards, but also pay off the bill faster, because some companies will negotiate with you if you pay all up front in cash instead of having to go on credit or a installment plan loan.
As a financial counselor, when you meet with clients or with anybody else, obviously people go to a financial counselor when they're in dire need. Don't you wish that they would come to you even before they were in trouble?
I do. I even wish they would come talk to me when they're not in trouble, just to make sure, am I doing everything right? Is there something better out there for me? Am I touching all the bases? Those are questions that I commonly get asked in the situation where they're already in a need for help. And what we want to do is we want to identify root factors and work on fixing those or addressing those, because once we do that, the roadway is so much easier. We can tell someone how to budget day in and day out, right? But telling them over and over again or having them read this thing is not addressing the root cause. Maybe the root cause is I just can't seem to stick to it, or I feel that I'm limiting myself to the things I want to do. And that's where we have that, because most of the counseling I do is around budget. And I know budget sounds like a four-letter word to most people, but really it's just a plan for your money. It's telling yourself where my money is coming from and where it's going. That's it.
It shocks a lot of people when they find out how much they're spending on food and extracurricular activities. It's like, how much again?
Right. In my younger days, when I calculated how much I was spending on just eating out or fast food or eating on the go, I could have put that money aside and put a down payment on a new car or whatever. So it kind of hits you when you do the numbers, right? When it's visibly in front of you,
Yeah.
You kind of have that aha moment. But, we can do that, and it's amazing when I sit down, especially when I work with high schoolers or college-age kids, and showing them the power of compound interest, and this is how a savings account works. And if you stay on a plan, here's where you could be. If we have to shake it up a little bit, we can, but we still want to be on track to this, and that's why using savings calculators online are a great tool, because it can visually show you in a time frame of how long it's going to take you to get to here. And that helps our clients and our members readjust their habits when sitting with us. So really we want to focus on showing you the potential, because what I tell our clients is in counseling sessions is we don't like the words financial literacy. We like the word financial capability, because everybody is capable to do this. We're just here to help you, show you how, and provide you the tools.
Are school districts doing a better job of teaching financial capability?
That's a loaded question. Each district is different, and we are in 3 different states, so there's 3 different state standards. But I think the effort is there and the desire is there. I think schools are really doing a great job of reaching out to financial institutions to partner and say, hey, we're not the experts. Can you come in and just speak to the kids? And many of us are doing that. So if it's not myself, it's another FI or another credit union, another bank. And that's amazing to see these financial institutions reinvest back in their community, right? And these kids and these teachers, they are hungry for it. They ask great questions. We get questions from parents, because sometimes it can be scary teaching a financial topic because it's such a hot topic and there's a lot of passion around it. But it's so great to see everybody's open-mindedness and willing to just listen to what we have to say.
What is the biggest question that you get asked when you speak to high school students?
They always ask me about credit, and I think it's great because credit is not the same as it was back when I was in high school. It was basically used to get a loan primarily, but now it's used for loans, it's used for jobs, it's used for housing, apartments. you name it. Even getting utility services can run a credit check on you to see what your down payment would be or what your interest rate's going to be or even what your rent amount's going to be. So it's amazing to see them ask that, because looking back, I had no earthly idea what a credit card was when I was 18 other than it was a plastic thing. So it's great to see that. We'll probably start seeing more questions around savings and investing. And unfortunately, I do not have my investment licensing, but I have great partners around here that do answer those questions for me, which is fantastic.
Once again, if you're just joining the program, Josh Franzen, the Senior Community and Business Development Representative with In Touch Credit Union. Tomorrow's not only Halloween, it's also World Savings Day. It's aimed at promoting saving money and raising awareness on the important role that savings has on a family's peace of mind. Josh has been giving us some tips on building up the emergency savings plan and also the importance of having that savings, and offering up tips for young people as well, for high school students and for college students. One of my favorite stories about a friend of mine, Josh, is when she graduated from high school, she was sent off to Texas Tech for her freshman year, and her parents opened up a bank account for her, and they gave her a checkbook. And she wrote checks right and left until her parents called her and said, "What the heck are you doing?" Apparently, she thought as long as she had checks to write, that there was money in the bank.
I hear that all the time, and it's more often with debit cards now. They're like, "Oh, I have a card, I must have money." And yeah, so I hear a lot of those stories. It's my favorite one is I had a family friend whose card was stored on his phone, and his child got his phone and spent $800 in the App Store because he learned how to charge it directly through his mobile wallet. And his son was 3 years old. So kids learn quickly, and they figure out it's just A to B, right? So just everybody, let's all be careful, because it happens to all of us. We all have our oops moments, but it's how we deal with those oops moments.
Hey, this past week, I just read where Beyonce's and Jay-Z's daughter, Blue Ivy, she bid $80,000 on a pair of earrings at some auction. But unlike us, she probably has the $80,000 in her bank account.
I saw that headline, and I just scrolled right past it. I'm like, I don't even know what I would do with $80,000.
Right? We'd buy a car. We would pay off our credit card bills. Hey, Josh, the holidays are right around the corner. And since we're talking about financial capability, as you call it, what are some tips that you have on dealing with holiday budgets and holiday spending?
Great one. So my first tip is maybe focus more on the experience with your loved ones than the gifts. Because gifts come and go, they break, they fade, or we eat them because, Christmas treats are my favorite things ever to eat. But memories last longer, right? So even in my family, we started focusing more on the time together as a family and not so much the gifts. So that cuts a lot of expenses down already for us. If you want to do gifts, think trinkets, little bitty things that you can find, or maybe you can build your own gift, make your own gift, and that typically is a little easier on the wallet. Sales are great, but as Jean Chotchke says in one of her books, just because it's 50% off, it's still 50% on.
Yeah.
So we're still spending money, and it may sound like a great deal, but then we think to ourselves, "Oh, I'm only spending this much here," and your mind is trained to think like that. But in reality, it's just really a good retail tactic to get you to spend more money, and I have a retail background, so I would know that. So we just got to be careful and maybe limit your gifts. Lists are great. Make a list of everybody you want to buy a gift for and commit to a budget per person. And that way, when you see you're coming onto that, again, the visual factor kind of helps you deal with all that. So those would be kind of my tricks. A lot of places have club accounts to save for the holidays, so money is available throughout the year that you're saving, and then it opens up to you on the 1st of November. But a lot of people don't only use those for gift giving, they use it for travel or extra payment on their debt. So things like that, and I would honestly start planning for my holiday shopping probably in July or September. Yeah. I know it's way before that, but when the time gets here and we go into panic mode, we tend not to think things through all the way and, fight or flight. So those are some couple of tips. I mean, there's plenty out there for people to find, but make sure it works for you, and don't try to keep up with, your neighbor, your coworker, your friend. We call it personal finance for a reason, because it's very personal, and you need to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anybody else.
And I'm sure you hear horror stories all the time because people get caught up in the season during the holidays and spend way too much sometimes if they're not on a budget, if they're not looking at what they're doing and don't have a list. And then they end up having to pay off that holiday spending for months into the next year, sometimes not able to pay it off until July, 6 months later.
Oh, yes. The joke is that I enjoy it in December and then jump at the bill in January. So It's important to do that. And I know a lot of people like to spend holiday shopping using a credit card because they want the cash back, they want the points. And I don't blame them. And they're taking advantage of a program that's available to them. But just remember, there's a cost for that. Typically on those types of cards, the interest rate is higher. So you're going to pay more if you can't pay it all off up front. You know, we were talking about balance transfers and how they're an important tool and it can be a money-saving option for people. And I read articles all the time about taking out a personal loan to consolidate debt or take out a personal loan for your shopping. And my first thought was you should never take out a personal loan just to do some holiday shopping. You're taking on debt to buy stuff that you don't necessarily need.
Yeah.
But there are several things to do. And again, my best piece of advice around this is come January 1st, please make an appointment with your local financial institution and do what we call a financial review. And we just review everything in your portfolio, your loans, your checking account, your savings options, so we can plan on maybe consolidating that holiday debt, paying it down faster, getting you into a better account for your needs, maybe helping you avoid some fees, things like that. So always plan at least once a year to review everything you have with your financial institutions because life changes. I am not the same person at age 35 as I was at age 18, thankfully. But there's also life changes. People get married, people have kids, people move, people buy homes, people sell homes. So, and yes, there is a lot during the holidays, and I know we tend to forget that, but maybe just make the appointment in December, but have it later in January just so it's already on the calendar and you can cross that off your to-do list. And I don't know, Anna, if you're like me, but when I cross stuff off my to-do list, it's like a moment of zen.
I have to admit that I am a big to-do list person. Every day I have my to-do list, and when I cross it off, you're right, it is a moment of zen. I just feel so organized. As disorganized as my life is, if I'm able to scratch something off the to-do list, it's like, yes!
Right? We're making progress one step at a time.
One thing on the to-do list at a time. Hey, are you hearing from more and more of your clients who are concerned about inflation and the cost of everything and how it's impacting them financially?
Directly, am I hearing it? Like to my face, no. But indirectly, do we see it? Yes. And again, it is something of a concern for everybody, not just here in DFW, but around the world, right? Everything is connected. And when I was a student in 2008, and I got really invested in everything that happened during then, you know, you kind of see this web. It's a trickle effect. It's not just one and done things. So we do see it. We do hear it. It's something that we should talk about, but in a professional way to where we want to address the concerns of people and help them financially and not necessarily point fingers or make it seem it's never going to end or impossible. It's important for financial institutions to say we are here and we're going to do our best to help you with what we can, because we do need that little bit of hope. Sometimes that little pat on the back encouragement can really get us through that. And it's not something that's going to go away immediately, although I wish it would, but we got to work together to get through it. And we can't help you as a financial institution if you don't come to us and tell us or ask us specifically, because everybody's different, everybody's situation is different, but everybody deserves to have that level of care when it comes to helping manage their money.
Are there any websites that you like to recommend to people if they're looking at budgeting or finances or savings?
Well, if I'm honest, I'm a little bit biased. So I would say our website, www.itcu.org. We have a bunch of financial calculators, and we also have some financial resources for individuals and families to create a budget worksheet, talk to a financial counselor if I'm not available. There's also plenty of options out when you search, savings calculators, there are places that have tons of articles such as NerdWallet or Bankrate, which are great for informational purposes, and they do a great job of saying, this is for informational purposes only. If you have questions, please see your financial institution. So just staying, finger on the pulse and keeping aware of what's going on is great. I don't like to spend too much time on the internet, just because doing it all day, every day at work is one thing, and you want that little bit of a break. There's a podcast I listen to, and they tell their listeners, please go out and touch the grass today, touch a tree, just go reconnect and get away, to disconnect yourself from all this digital stuff. But yeah, and if they're not already checking out your local financial institution's website, almost all of them have a resource page that has articles or blogs already there for their communities. So please take a look there too. There's such a wealth of information on the credit union and bank websites that I don't think people realize is there. And, we as the financial community need to do a better job of communicating. We have these resources for you. Please look at this. It's great to even follow your financial institution on social media. They'll post up there, too, and it's there, so take a look at it.
And I'm going to give some love to your employer. ITCU.org is the website?
That is our website, open 24/7, 365.
You're such a great employee. ITCU.org. My guest once again on the phone, if you're just joining the program, Josh Franzen, the Senior Community and Business Development Representative with In Touch Credit Union. And I invited him to be on the program today because tomorrow is not only Halloween, it's also World Savings Day, aimed at promoting saving money and raising awareness on the important role that savings has on a family's peace of mind. I think if some people look at their savings account tomorrow, Halloween, they may be scared into reaching out to you, Josh, and saying, I need to do something. What is the biggest message that you have for people on World Savings Day, since it's all about raising awareness about savings?
A message is it's important. And it needs to be made a priority. And I know it's hard sometimes to do that, but again, this is our money, your money. We need to pay ourselves first because we're worth it, and everybody is capable, right? That's why we call it financial capability. You are capable. You can do it. We can help you do that. And that's the biggest takeaway, is that everybody is capable of doing this. Let us help you.
And looking ahead to 2023, if you're hoping to purchase a house or purchase a car, reach out to your financial institution, and you guys can kind of help them make a plan so that they can get into that new house or into that new car. Correct, Josh?
That is correct. We help everybody day to day, and the love letters and thank you notes and pictures and cookies we get are really worth more than anything I could ever get in the world.
And how long would you say for someone who's saying, you know what, I really want to look ahead and I want to start saving so that I can put a down payment on a house in the future? How long do you think that it takes for the average person to get that down payment for a house?
That is a great question. I don't have a real answer to that because there's so many other factors that we would talk about. How much you're going to put away, how long you're going to put away, when do you need the house, when do you want to do this, where are you going to buy, what kind of loan are you going to get? There's just so much more now in the world, but I have seen people do it in 1 to 2 years. If they're really dedicated and really focused, I've seen that happen. It's also typical to be a 3 to 5 year thing. That can be typical, but it's really on how aggressive and how dedicated you want to be and how much money you are able to put away, because again, life happens.
How about for young couples, of people who are thinking about getting married? I mean, I've heard over and over and over again how financial issues can break apart marriages. So what kind of financial counseling do you do for young couples?
So there's usually a spender and there's usually a saver, right?
Yeah.
in every couple. So it's identifying those needs and also identifying their relationship with money growing up. That's kind of the biggest factor. I tend to ask them, well, what were your parents like with money? What was the relationship right there? Because you typically take on the role your parents did in managing money. So some of us were very dedicated to saving money, and that's the habit they take on. Because I see all the time where couples will assume the other one is taking care of this, and it's not happening because there's not communication. So clear-cut communication, being honest about your relationship with money, and building a plan together is the best advice I can give. I do see a trend, though, in a lot of couples having 3 debit or spending accounts where it's person 1 has their account, person 2 has their account, and then there's a joint account, and that's for, the mortgage, the rent, all the combined bills come out of there. And that seems to help a lot of couples because then money is freed up if it's in their account to do what they want, but they're not taking away from the household funds, which I think that's a brilliant idea. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, let's find something that does.
So you're not only a financial capability counselor, you're also a marriage counselor. Good for you, Josh.
Well, I don't know if I want to be a marriage counselor.
How about, before we wrap up, because I hear it a lot from people that I know that they feel like they're drowning in debt because they went crazy with their credit cards. Maybe over the summer they took a vacation, spent more than they had planned to. Do they come crying to you, okay, how do I get back on track? And what do you tell them? Because obviously they didn't get into debt overnight, so it's going to take a while for them to get out of that credit card crunch.
Yeah, so the first thing I would tell them is great job in recognizing this is an issue and you're asking and seeking out help. That's a big pain point for a lot of people because we all want to present we know everything and we're capable and we're adults and we can do all that, and then pride gets in the way. So that's the first thing, is letting them know that they're doing a good thing by seeking out. And then we would just I would say, bring me all your statements. Let's take a look at these. Let's take a look at rates. Let's look at payment plans and, what are you comfortable with? Do you want to focus on paying off the higher interest rate one first, or do you want to focus on paying off the higher balance first, and give them the pros and cons in each? And at the end of the session, they have 1 to 3 choices that they can choose from, but they have to make that choice. I can't do it for you, but I can provide you a guide set and some tools, and then it's up to you to take it from there. So I think that's a great thing to do. And yes, you're right. A lot of people they are drowning and they feel like they can never get out of it. But once you make a plan, we have a life raft. We can get you on there and start pushing you on there. And, for those who really, really struggle, I would even suggest meeting with your counselor or your banker maybe every week or every other week, just for a quick check-in to make sure you're on track and to give yourself that motivation. And a banker worth their salt will encourage you and keep you motivated and kind of be your cheerleader to do that. Because then at the end of the day, you're going to remember, oh, so-and-so helped me get out of this. I want to go back for them and ask them for what else they can offer me or what else they can do, because it's about building that relationship and providing that service that people are going to remember. I was recently at a small business seminar, and I asked them, what is something that we could do as a financial institution to help you as a small business, because it's a lot of your own money going into this. And they told me, just know us, work with us, guide us, and cheer us on when we feel everything's going down the drain. And I was like, well, why can't we apply that to personal people too? I mean, that's the whole thing. And that's why I love working in the credit union movement, because our whole philosophy is people helping people. And I take that to heart. That is something that I champion every day, to the point where my leaders are sometimes have to rein me back in because my passion gets a little overwhelming for people. But they tell me, we'd rather pull you back than to motivate you to step up.
Well, thank you so much to Josh Franson, the Senior Community and Business Development Representative with InTouch Credit Union. Find out more at itcu.org for financial tips during World Savings Day, which is tomorrow. It's not only Halloween, it's also World Savings Day, aimed at promoting saving money and raising awareness on the important role that savings has on a family and on a person's peace of mind. Josh, thank you so much for being on the program.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Happy Halloween to everybody, and happy World Savings Day.